You on a Memorial Day Monday here with Adam Sherrod to break down the main slate we'll focus on. We could briefly go over the four-game night slate. Adam, how you doing? How was your weekend?
Doing pretty good. Weekend was relaxing. Had a couple of sweats in baseball that didn't quite get there, but that happens. How was yours?
It was good. It wasn't great results wise, but it was fun to be playing DFS and stuff. And um, yeah, so I'm just ready to get back to the winning ways. Like you guys, you and Josh, and I saw one of our subs we were talking about almost took it down on Friday. So he got second, and pretty good profit there. Almost 9K in profit. Got a bad beat with, you said it was Robbie Ray going an extra inning in a 15-run game.
Yeah. Robbie Ray, batting for himself, didn't just pinch hit for him, take him out. Batting for himself, went out through another inning and won someone the tournament by a point.
That's brutal, especially. Actually, it was a decent payout structure that day, so the drop from first to second wasn't that terrible, but still, bad beat nonetheless. Our own Josh Engelman also, 100 pizza rolls did not stop him from almost taking it down. He was in the top 10, $1,500, doubled his entry fees. I'm assuming, yeah, he maxed that. Uh, let's see what Josh did. I don't even know. I haven't looked at his lineups yet. Oh, this was the Marlins chalk day. Were you on the Marlins on Friday by chance?
If I remember right, Friday actually I was overweight because they came in at like 5%. Like most of their hitters were like 6 or like 8%. I was over on at least a couple.
Okay. Yeah, I think I was almost entirely off them, so I'm pretty sure I got crushed this day. But yeah, it looks like the Marlins were the key to Josh's success. Marlins and actually three different stacks. Looks like Marlins Orioles, Marlins Rockies, and then another Marlins Rockies, Marlins Padres. So the Marlins were just the absolute nuts that day. I think this was a 14 game slate, and they were pretty heavy chalk. Uh, but yeah, they were what you kind of needed. So, uh, what about today's slate, Adam? I see we're probably going to have some pretty heavy chalk on Scherzer. Man, even more than I expected. Nearly 60% ownership right now. Do you kind of like when you've got a pitcher like that that's heavy chalk? Like you just lock him in for the most part and then just kind of move on and differentiate elsewhere? Or are you looking to get a completely different lineup construction without Scherzer when you're getting a pitcher that's nearly 60%?
Yeah, I mean normally I don't pay up quite as much as other people as other people do for pitching, but when you're talking about Scherzer against the Marlins, obviously it's good chalk. So, um, you're not looking to really get away from it, especially Garrett Cole's projected for like 32% ownership, so it's not like you're getting him low owned. I imagine that I'll end up getting just a lot of Scherzer and going from there.
Yeah, I would imagine I also get a ton of Scherzer. We are, of course, presented by Yahoo Daily Fantasy. Promo code AWESEMO gets you up to $30 in Yahoo Sports rewards points. Yahoo, I think for the third or fourth day in a row, ran out a no management fee contest, and it already filled. So we are over 3 hours before lock, and it rightly filled very, very early. It was 3,000 entrants this time. I think it was 1K to first, so they're even building that up a little bit. It was $600 to first the other day. Good payout structure. Obviously, with Yahoo, you don't have to compete against 150 lineups. You have to manually enter lineups, and obviously low rake, low management fees, and in some cases, no management fees. So go support Yahoo if you didn't get in that contest. You hope that there's another one in the coming days, but really cool that Yahoo's running out these no management fee contests because they were doing it for NFL. They were a huge hit, and it's cool to see them bring it back for MLB. You been playing on Yahoo over the weekend?
Didn't over the weekend. Need to work some more on my process over there. I wasn't really happy with the lineups that I was making when I was playing like Friday and Thursday. So need to work on that a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. It's a little bit different. More similar to DraftKings, I think, than FanDuel because of the dual pitcher. But yeah, we've got Yahoo DFS MLB strategy with Alex and myself and Josh on Fridays. If you guys are looking to catch that, we'll do a Yahoo specific show each week, basically for the entire month or for the entire MLB season. How do you access the lineup builder? I have a free month premium access. Just wondering. So Caesar. Oh, I think I saw you in chat. I was watching the show yesterday, but I'll pull up how you can access that quick, and then we'll get started. So you're just going to go to the site. You will go to Tools, Lineup Builder, choose your lineup builder. For us, it will be MLB. I've got mine pulled up, but yeah, that's how you pull up the lineup builder. Super easy. Tools, Fantasy Cruncher, lineup builder, whatever you want to do if you have Fantasy Cruncher. Ready to talk about this slate, Adam?
Yeah.
Cool. Let's do the Scherzer chalk first. Miami and Washington. We've got a 2.9 implied total for the Marlins, 5.2 for the Nats. Jose Urena and Max Scherzer on the mound. We've talked about him a little bit, but just tell the people kind of what you're doing with Scherzer or what you intend to do.
Yeah, I mean, I intend to get as much Scherzer as I can here. It's just not a spot that I really feel the need to differentiate. There's 20 offenses on this slate. You're going to be able to get some low on hitters. You can get, contrarian with different SP2s. I don't think that you need to get too cute with Scherzer here. It's a really good spot against Miami, the worst offense in baseball, really high strikeout percentage. A lot of righties in the lineup, which is huge for Scherzer as well. Always a higher strikeout percentage against righties than lefties. And this year has really been no different. So, the only two, if you're looking to get away from Scherzer, I think that it's to get, better bats in your lineup. It is a Coors Field slate. Or you do have Garrett Cole and Luis Castillo up at the top as well. We have Cole projected for about 32% ownership, which is pretty high, but Castillo is projected much lower against Pittsburgh. So like you can certainly make an argument for pivoting to those guys, but it's just as good a spot as you can get for Scherzer.
Yep. Look at the Marlins as a team so far this season. Even though they've had some recent success, they knocked DeGrom out of the game pretty early. Still seventh in K percentage versus righties, 24.5%. You mentioned a bunch of righties in the lineup. Not much power, 86 WRC plus, 161 ISO. I mean, they're just over 300 in on-base percentage. It's just a really good matchup. So despite some of their recent success, despite their explosion over the weekend, I'm going to be jamming in as much Scherzer as possible. And I don't even think you're going to have that many issues trying to construct lineups with Scherzer and quality offenses. It is a Coors slate, but it's Greinke and John Gray on the mound, so maybe not two pitchers that people are crazy about targeting. I would imagine what this is going to do with Scherzer is just make it so in the top stacks tool where you can see this, some of these top offenses that are expensive maybe go a little bit under-owned. So I'll be trying to get to some of them, but I still would guess I get close to the field, if not over the field, on 60% Scherzer. Urena on the other side, 6,300 on DraftKings. Is he a guy you're looking at all against the Nationals with a 5.2 implied total against him?
Pretty unlikely that I get there. Just a scary spot against this Nats team in Washington. It's been hot and humid here as well. So, the ball should be carrying. A little cooler today than it was yesterday, but this time of year it starts to, really heat up here. So getting him outside of Miami against this Washington team that outside of Ryan Zimmerman now is fully healthy, I think is a pretty dangerous spot for Urena. The price tag obviously is appealing. He's only 6,300 on DraftKings, but you do have some other options down in that range, and I think less scary matchups.
Yep. Juan Soto, Matt Adams, two guys you're looking at probably.
Yep. Definitely prefer the lefties against Urena.
Yep. I'll have a ton of those guys. I'll probably have a bunch of national stacks. Bad bullpen here for Miami. 5.2 implied total. Good correlation to Scherzer. I don't think it's going to be that difficult. Maybe if you try to get in Rendon and Soto, you might have some difficulty to build a Scherzer lineup. But outside of that, I think it's not going to be too tough to stack up the Nats even with Scherzer in your lineups. Anything else interesting you want to talk about here before we move on?
No, I think that's it for this one.
All right. Let's go to the Padres and the Yankees. We've got Matt Strahm going up against, we don't know yet for the Yankees. There is no run total yet, so Vegas doesn't know who's going yet either. But we can talk about Strahm and the Yankees bats and then kind of speculate on the Padres bats versus whoever goes for the Yankees. Do you like Strahm at 8,500 going into Yankee Stadium?
Not really. Like, I think he's a pretty average pitcher. It's not a great matchup for a lefty against all that right-handed power, and it's not like he's cheap. I imagine this is a slate where I'm going to end up with a lot of, kind of stars and scrubs pitching, if you want to call it that, with, Scherzer, and then needing to get cheaper than an $8,500 Strom. So I don't think I get there.
Yeah, just kind of a weird price point, and going into Yankee Stadium, even though it's kind of a watered down lineup, you don't have Judge and Stanton. Uh, Still a bunch of righty power: Voit, Hicks, Sanchez, Gleyber Torres. That's a really tough top four, and then LeMahieu, or I'm sorry, 2 through 5, and then LeMahieu leading off doesn't strike out a bunch. So hard to see how Strom kills me here. So I think I'll probably avoid. Do you have any clue who's going for the Yankees? I haven't heard a peep about anyone.
No, I haven't seen anything.
Okay.
I think Cortez pitched yesterday. I think.
Okay, maybe we can circle back to this game later if we get word on a starter. So I'll keep an eye out for that, or chat alert me if you see there's a starter announced or run totals come out.
All right, so Cortez threw 72 pitches yesterday. Sessa threw 28 pitches on Saturday. I
Okay.
have no idea.
Yeah, me either. That's all right. We'll come back to this game. Anything more on the Yankees bats? You're looking to stack them up, or are there specific guys you'd like to target against Strom here?
I don't think I'll really get to the Yankees because Strom's decent and the Padres bullpen's good. I think there's just spots that I'll end up targeting more here. Obviously Gary Sanchez is a good catcher play, but he's also really, really expensive, and you have to sacrifice at other positions to be able to get him into lineups. $4,100 Aaron Hicks on DraftKings is a nice price point for him, but everyone else is pretty expensive. All the other guys that I would want are pretty expensive.
Yeah, and I would guess Voit makes for an interesting play. He's almost double the price of Morales, assuming they're both in the lineup and you can only play one on DraftKings. So I would guess you get Voit. If you are stacking up the Yankees, I would try to maybe get him in instead of Morales. I think that would be an interesting way to get different while also making probably a better raw point play if Voit bats second and Morales goes sixth. Uh, let's go to the next game. Let's go to the Tigers and the Orioles. We've got Daniel Norris going up against Gabriel. Is it Noah? Is that how you pronounce it?
I think it's Inoa.
Inoa? All
I
right.
think so.
4.5 implied total for the Tigers, 4.6 for the Orioles. Really expensive prices on some of these Orioles bats, it looks like. Uh, Man, Tigers going to be chalk again here? Yikes. I think they might
Yeah,
be.
I mean, bullpen game against Baltimore is a pretty good spot to be in. Inoa's not great. The bullpen's really bad. I think that getting to some of the cheaper Tiger bats is, a pretty good way to go. Kristen, Stewart, and Castellanos in particular would be the two that I'm targeting specifically just because they are, I think, the two best power hitters in this lineup. Castellanos, obviously, just a really good overall hitter. Stewart has power. He's young. He's still developing, but he does have power. So those are the two that stand out if you're not full stacking.
Yeah, it looks like Goodrum, Stewart, Castellanos, 1, 2, 3 are getting a little bit of ownership. Nothing crazy, but they're going to be a stack or a mini stack that allows you to fit in Scherzer and Garrett Cole lineups. So it does make sense. Those would be the three guys I want to target. So I don't really have an issue with the full stack. I just wonder if it goes a little bit overowned for the implied total. It is a decent implied total. It looks like pretty good weather as well for hitting, decent park. So I don't hate the Tigers, but I'd imagine I come in a little underweight on the full stack. Norris, man, I swear Norris just pitched on Friday or something, but he pitches. He's one of those guys. It's like I know Josh has a couple of them too. I feel like he's a guy that every time I talk about a slate, he's on it. But he's $6,900 going up against this Orioles team that has been actually pretty decent lately. A bunch of righties in the lineup. Looks like Norris will only get one lefty. Do you have an issue going to Norris? Is he going to be a guy you want to get to? And then on the other side, are you looking at Orioles bats against him?
Yeah, I don't think I get to a lot of him. Really just hasn't been striking guys out. Since last year, he has a 21.3% strikeout percentage against righties. So far this year, it's 17.2%. He's done a reasonably good job of limiting production. 333 expected WOBA, 189 expected ISO. So the expected power numbers are worse than actual numbers allowed. A lot of right-handed bats in this lineup. Like you said, you have some power too with guys like Mancini, Nunez, Broxton. So I don't see me getting to much Norris here.
Yeah, I think if he was a little cheaper, I would probably get to him, but there are some other options that are intriguing in this range if you're not in for chalk Homer Bailey at 5,200. So I don't see myself getting to a ton of Norris. He's probably got to have a sprinkle of. Uh, are you looking at Mancini and VR and Nunez, kind of the middle of this Orioles lineup, or the top four, I guess?
Yeah, they're expensive is the only problem, but or at least Mancini, VR, and Nunez are expensive. Like you're overpaying for Nunez, which in tournaments is okay. You know, you're not worried about point per dollar plays or stuff like that, but you are, paying a premium that he probably doesn't deserve. VR is a little overpriced. Mancini, I think, is actually good, but there's just always so many good outfield bats that paying $5,000 for Mancini isn't a priority. I think that the guy I get to the most here probably will be Keyon Roxton. Not a good overall hitter. Like he's, below average in terms of WRC plus, but he does offer home runs and steals. He basically strikes out close to 40% of the time, but has a lot of power and a lot of speed, and that's what wins you tournaments. So getting someone at a cheap price tag because he's not good overall that offers the amount of upside that Broxton does is pretty appealing.
Doesn't he smash lefties too?
I'm not sure that he smashes anything consistently, but
I know he's got a. I mean, yeah, you mentioned he's got power. So I just remember him or playing him a bunch against lefties when he was on the Brewers, batting like seventh or eighth. But yeah,
he's always one of my favorite DFS guys just because he's cheap, because he's not actually good, but he just does the two things that you need in tournaments.
yeah, all he needs is good games. Doesn't have to be good. See bad plays work out all the time. Bad teams in MLB DFS. So I like the call. Anything we missed there, or should we move on?
I think that's it. I was just pulling up Broxton's career splits. He has a 111 WRC plus against left-handed pitching. Only 227 at bats.
Not bad.
Still strikes out 36.1% of the time.
That's bad. But that's all right. Just needs to make contact a couple times for him to be worth it at 3,700. Pirates and Reds, we've got Nick Kingham going up against Luis Castillo. 3.7 implied total for the Pirates, 5.4 for the Reds. Kingham at 6,600, Luis Castillo at 10.7 on DraftKings. Either of these guys sticking out to you as guys you want to play?
Castillo is interesting if you're like hand building lineups or playing three maxes or something like that, because right now we have him projected at like 7% ownership compared to close to 60 for Scherzer. He has the third highest strikeout percentage on the slate behind Scherzer and Cole. It's not a great matchup as far as strikeouts go. Pittsburgh doesn't have a ton of strikeouts in their lineup, but they do have left-handed bats, and Castillo's done a really good job this year of getting swings and misses against lefties, against everyone, but he has a changeup that gets a huge swinging strike percentage. So not concerned really about the amount of lefties in the lineup. I think that I will probably end up just smashing Scherzer and kind of ignoring Castillo, but it's certainly a spot where I think that if the ownership holds the way we have it now, like I think Castillo beats Scherzer more than 1 out of 6 times or whatever you would need.
Yeah, I mean, wait, is Castillo at 7%? Is that what you said? Is he even double digits?
Yeah, 7%.
Wow. Yeah, so, man, almost 8 or 9 times the ownership for Scherzer you're getting compared to Castillo. A little bit different caliber of pitchers, but like you mentioned, Castillo just has missed so many bats this season, so it's not like he can't overcome this matchup. He's only $47 on Yahoo as well, so I think over there he makes for a really interesting pivot at $15 less than Scherzer. Or maybe you might even be able to fit in both of them if you can find a really cheap team. I'm looking at some of these Tigers bats. They've got 3 guys in the projected lineup that are min-salary. The Reds have a couple cheap bats. And, yeah, I think you might actually be able to make a Scherzer-Castillo lineup on Yahoo. So maybe I'll go over and do that to get more Castillo exposure. Bats in this game, it looks like I don't see any weather information on this one. I'm assuming it's not raining in Cincinnati. Maybe that's a ambitious assumption, but 5.4 implied total for the Reds. Where do they rank on kind of your top stacks overall against Kingham?
Yeah, I think it's a good spot. Kingham has always struggled with lefties. He struggled just in general this year too, but it's a good park for hitters, and you do have some lefty power with Dietrich, Winker. You have a cheap Joey Votto who is having all kinds of issues this year, but he's cheap. And then you have, Suarez from the right side, who's just a good hitter. Puig has a lot of power. Senzel's been impressive, steals bases as well. So I think Cincinnati's a pretty nice stack here. It's a not very good Pittsburgh bullpen behind Kingdom as well. So high upside spot, reasonable price tags for the Reds.
Yeah, I like it quite a bit. Dietrich up to $4,900. Winker, I'd probably prefer Winker at 4K. But Puig at 4,300, his price never seems to come up to a price where he gets priced out of play or anything. And then I have no problem paying 5K for Suarez. That's a really weird price to see on Votto. I know he's struggled so much, but as like a cash option, would he be someone you're still looking at, or has he been so bad that you wouldn't even consider him in cash at 4,300?
I think he's a perfectly fine cash play because even though he's having trouble, hitting, he's still a guy that gets on base. Obviously hasn't really been there this year, but I don't expect his plate discipline numbers to disappear anytime soon. So I think that at that price tag, especially in cash, maybe he doesn't have the upside that you're looking for at first base in tournaments as a one-off because he's just, he's not hitting well, but also even in previous years, he's just not really the kind of guy that normally goes out there and hits, 2 home runs or gives you that kind of upside. But he's always been really good at getting on base, which gives you, as high a floor as you're going to get for a hitter in cash.
Do you play a lot of cash?
No.
You don't? Okay.
No.
Neither do I. I always wonder if I should kind of be playing like the low dollar double ups and stuff. I probably should and just use the projections on the site. And I have a couple times, but I always forget to enter those. Like I'm always looking to enter all these large field tournaments, and I just kind of forget about cash. It doesn't really excite me that much.
Yeah, if I play, I normally play head to head.
Oh, you do? Okay. Just hunt all the fish.
I just post and yeah.
There you go.
Just lower risk of ruin, and I find it a little bit more fun because it's head to head, and I can just look and be like, oh, I'm crushing this guy.
Yeah, I'm sure you see a lot of familiar faces trying to scoop your games. Maybe make some enemies on Twitter or something. All right. Any bats against Castillo that you're looking to target, or is he a guy you don't want to target against here?
Yeah, he's a guy that I don't really want to target against. Josh Bell obviously has been fantastic this year, but you're paying a premium for him in a really tough matchup. It is a huge park shift, a huge park boost for Pittsburgh, but you're just not really getting price tags that I like all that much against Castillo. If Adam Frazier is leading off at 3,400 on DraftKings, I think that's a reasonable spot to go to. $11 on Yahoo is an okay price tag, but in general, just not a spot that I'm looking to target.
Yeah. Josh Bell has a 206 WRC plus versus righties this year. I cannot believe how good he's been. He's a guy that you believe in? Like you believed in before the season, right? He made a bunch of adjustments.
Yeah, there was talk about him making some changes, and so far, obviously, they're working out. I think he might be second now in WRC plus behind Bellinger. I know he's up at the top or towards the top.
Third behind Bellinger and Yelich, and then right in front of Trout. So pretty good company there.
Yeah.
Man. And that's versus righties. He might be even higher against lefties. I'm assuming he's hit lefties okay as well this season. All right, let's go to Toronto and Tampa Bay. We've got Aaron Sanchez and Yanni Chirinos. I believe Chirinos is going to start this game. We've got him listed as a starter right now. 3.7 implied total for the Rays, 3.7 for the Blue Jays, 4.9 for the Rays. Chirinos at under 8K on DraftKings. Does that get you a little bit excited knowing he's going to start, knowing you don't have to worry about him not coming in the game?
Yeah, I think that him starting is appealing. The problem is he hasn't thrown more than 68 pitches since May 4th. He threw 93 against the Orioles. So not sure exactly how deep he can go into the game. And the price tag is a little more expensive than I would like. But it is a good matchup against Toronto. They do strike out a lot. They've obviously had tons of issues at the plate this season. So I think Chirinos, if you are stacking a more expensive team or stacking like a really cheap team where you can get Scherzer plus Chirinos, I think he's a very reasonable option. I just think that overall the price point is kind of tough to get to. Like it's more likely that I end up just going really cheap at SP2.
Yeah, I mean, if he's capped at 80, 85 pitches, assuming he's not all of a sudden going to throw 100 here, that makes it tough at AK. So I didn't even catch that. But That's a good call by you. It's just you just limit your upside so much if you can't get into the 90s and 100 pitch mark. So I probably won't get to too much Torinos, but he would give you good differentiation, and it's not like he can't go and get you 7 or 8 strikeouts in 5 innings. Like, he's done that a couple times already this season. What about this weird price point for Aaron Sanchez at 7,600, almost a 5 implied total against him? He's not someone you're looking at, right?
No, too many good lefties in the Tampa Bay lineup. When Sanchez struggles, it normally is with left-handed bats, and you have Choi and Meadows and Lau in there. So I'm not looking to pay that price tag for Sanchez here.
Tampa is really expensive on DraftKings. 4 of their top 5 are $4,800 or more on DraftKings. So I wonder if they're going to be a team that comes in as undervalued on the top stack tool. I would imagine they would be. On Yahoo, they're pretty expensive as well. 4 out of their top 5, those same guys, are all $18 or above. So I would imagine Tampa goes a little bit overlooked here. What are you doing with them? Are they going to be a priority for you?
Yeah, I mean they're a tough team to stack too because you have Meadows, Pham, Garcia, and Kiermaier all as outfielders, and all as pretty appealing guys to get in your lineup. I don't think they'll be a top stack, but any Tampa Bay I get, I'm happy with just because they do give you upside. They're just really really expensive.
Yeah, no kidding. And then bats against Torinos in the Tampa bullpen. Are you kind of avoiding them? Vlad Guerrero, $14 on Yahoo, but I guess they're really cheap on DraftKings. Is this going to be a cheap stack that you get to at all?
Probably not too much. Tampa Bay obviously has a good bullpen. Torinos is good, and it's more likely I get there as like mini stacks and maybe some one-offs. $3,600 for Vlad Guerrero is a really, really good price point.
Yeah.
Obviously, the matchup's not great, but he's just a more talented hitter, and he gives you more upside than most guys in that price range. So him, Grichuk at 3,300, Smoke at 4K. I think you can look to those middle of the order guys, but I'm not sure that I get to full stacks here.
Yeah, I think some combo of 2 through 5, Guerrero, Smoke, Tellez, and Grichuk is probably where I'd go, like a 2-man or even like one-offs of those guys. All really nice price points, I think. So, or even Galvis for 3,700. But yeah, I agree. The full stack is going to be tough to get to with such a low implied total, bad park, good pitcher on the other side, and then a good bullpen behind him. All right, let's go to another chalky game. We've got Kansas City and Chicago. The White Sox 4.7 implied total for Homer Bailey, and the Royals 4.9 for Ivan Nova and the Sox. Homer Bailey coming in at 24% ownership, I believe. Yep, 24%. If he sticks there, even above 20%, what are you doing with Bailey versus the White Sox here?
I'll end up rostering him. The price point's just, I think, too good to pass up. In tournaments, I am definitely a proponent of just rostering basically any pitcher like 6K or below as your SP2 and just, hoping for the best, because they don't have to do a whole lot to get you an acceptable score at that price point when you consider the bats it lets you get in your lineup. Knowing how much I've gotten of pitchers recently, like $5,500 Ryan Carpenter and, Dan Straley and Nova on the last time he pitched, I know that I'm going to be getting the Bailey here just because of the price point. He can give up 3 solo home runs, and as long as he goes like 5 or 6 innings, you're fine. He has a 23% strikeout percentage against lefties this year. There are strikeouts in the lineup for Chicago, so that will help him, erase whatever home runs he does give up. And yeah, I think that it's just a reasonable spot. Obviously you can stack against him with the White Sox. Like, they are a high upside offense. They do have a lot of power. And assuming Bailey's going to be popular, you get leverage on the field by doing that. But in my non-White Sox lineups, I know I'm going to be getting the Bailey.
So I agree with you about just rostering pitchers that are cheap, because people will avoid some of these guys. But it's going to apply to Nova here as well at 4,800, right?
Yeah. It's like Kansas City's a good offense. Nova's not a good pitcher, but he's cheaper than Trey Mancini. It just gives you so much upside. Saving money at pitcher, especially on slates like today, where it's not like we've gotten to mid-range pitchers where we're really in love with them. The mid-range is a bunch of guys where it's just like, yeah, he's okay. If I get there, I guess. But it pretty clearly sets up as a slate where you get your most upside by paying up for one of the aces and then saving money at SP2, and getting to like a Bailey or Nova lets you do that.
Yeah, so I think I'm just going to be on all sides of this game. I'm going to have a bunch of Bailey teams, going to have a bunch of Nova teams. They just allow you to fit in whatever bats you want, along with Scherzer for the most part. And then you're getting leverage on, especially Bailey. I haven't seen Nova's ownership when I was scanning through. Yeah, he's right up there too in the 20% range. So both of these guys are going to get ownership. The bats are also getting a bunch of ownership. Do you prefer one stack to the other against one of these guys?
I prefer the Royals. I just think that they have left-handed power against Nova, which is always a problem, and they just have so much speed to go with their power that they're just a really high upside spot. Chicago has been good. Their bullpen against lefties this year, so that's a little bit concerning for someone like Alex Gordon. But Mondesi is a switch hitter, which is nice, and you do have guys like Merrifield, Dozier, and Soler that make it so they can't just mow down the Royals with left-handed relievers.
Do you know off the top of your head if Nova is decent at holding runners?
I don't. I can pull that
Let
up.
me see if I can find this. I don't know if it's an extreme, so it might just be okay, which is fine for Mondesi and Merrifield and co. But
Yeah, he's been like average to
average.
slightly below average in recent years. He's already allowed 5 stolen bases this year,
Wow.
which
Well,
is
all
as
right.
many as he allowed all of last year.
Well, maybe he's even getting worse. Maybe he's even getting slower to the
Yeah.
plate. So these guys are going to be off and running, I would imagine. The one concern here is weather, maybe some rain going on. So keep an eye out for the Osmo Weather Twitter account. That's Alex tweeting from Matt. He tells you if there's going to be a game that's affecting his process. So go give Osmo Weather a follow. Go follow Osmo MLB, all the Osmo Twitter accounts. Go give those a follow. Helps us support or help support us. And then you can also feel free to give us a like. I see there's a bunch of you guys watching right now. If you could give us a like, that obviously helps us quite a bit, helps us continue to do this kind of content for free. Um, Anything else on this game before we head out?
Nope.
All right, let's go to the Cubs and the Astros. We've got a 3.4 implied total for the Cubs going up against the Astros, who are 4.6 right now. Cole Hamels, Garrett Cole, Hamels at 9,200, Cole at 11,300. Looks like the roof is going to be open in Houston. 86 degrees, not really humid, but a little bit of wind blowing out to left. Super low implied total for the Cubs, and we've got Garrett Cole at 30+% ownership. Are you just not going to get to Cole because of Scherzer?
Yeah, I think that's probably what's going to happen. If we had Cole projected for lower ownership, I think that I would start to get him in some lineups. But the matchup just is totally different than Scherzer's. I mean, you have this Cubs team that has good hitters and a relatively low strikeout percentage compared to Miami that doesn't have good hitters and a really high strikeout percentage. I think that chances are. So like when I make my lineups, obviously I'm going to be getting Cole lineups because I cap exposures and crunchers so that I get a variation of lineups to choose from. But then when I go through and sort my lineups and decide which ones I'm playing, I think it's really likely that I give preference to Scherzer lineups.
Yeah, I would imagine I do as well. So I think I'm going to end up more in the 10 to 15% range on Cole and then get close to the field, if not over the field, on Scherzer. But don't really love the matchup here against the Cubs, so I'm hoping Cole doesn't get a crazy good projection. It's just weird seeing the Cubs with the total so low. 3.4 implied runs. It's got to be the lowest they've had on the season. So a lot of respect from Vegas going to Cole. If he's going to be 30%, though, do you have any interest in like Rizzo or Schwarber? 3,500 for Schwarber, 46 for Rizzo as leverage plays?
Not really. Cole's just a really good pitcher. He's good against lefties, strikes out lefties at a really high clip. He's at 40.7% against left-handed hitters this year. He's allowed a 116 expected ISO. I don't think that it's worth it on a slate this big.
Yeah, that's probably fair. I think I will get to some of those guys. Is Kris Bryant questionable to be in the lineup? I'm seeing a Q tag next to his name. Did you see anything on him? Adam?
There we go. My like
Oh,
mute button wouldn't unmute.
oh, all good.
Yeah, he left the game early yesterday. I think he like crashed into the wall chasing a fly ball or something.
Dang. Oh, people are saying which Cole in chat. We haven't really talked about Hamels. We were talking about Garrett right there, but what about Hamels on the other side going up against this Astros team?
Yeah, I mean, watered down Astros lineup without Springer or Altuve, but still a pretty difficult spot. And it's not like you're getting a great price on Hamels. If you didn't have Scherzer and Cole and Garrett Cole and Steele on the slate, then I think you could start considering Hamels just because of Springer and Altuve being out of the lineup. But you think about what Hamels would have to do. Like he still has to have a big game at 9,200, assuming that Scherzer goes out and takes care of business and Cole has a good game. It's not like you're getting a huge price difference off of them. So I would rather just be paying up or just going really cheap with both pitchers and getting like a million good bats.
Yeah, it's just a price point thing for Hamels. Despite the better lineup, maybe some strikeouts at the bottom of this Houston lineup. And Hamels is a guy I respect. I've grown to respect more and more as the years have gone on. Even though I was stacking against him as religiously as recently as last season. Maybe I'll get to some Correa and Bregman. I like the price points on those guys, 45 and 4,200. But I doubt I'm full stacking a ton here against Hamels. And that's really all I have for this game. You want to go to Coors Field now?
Yeah, I will add that Hamels is $35 on Yahoo, so I think that's a much more appealing price point.
That is good catch there. All right, Arizona and Colorado. We've got 5-run implied total for the Diamondbacks, 5.1 for the Rockies. Much lower than what we saw over the weekend when the Orioles went into Coors. But Greinke and John Gray on the mound probably has a lot to do with that. Pitching here, hitting, is there one you prefer? Are you going to either of these guys? Are there specific bats you're targeting in this game?
Yeah, so I mean, it's games like this are always tough because both pitchers are good, but Coors Field is just such a good place to hit. A lot will come down to how ownership projections look. Right now, just kind of quickly like scrolling through DraftKings ownership percentages, it doesn't look like we have crazy ownership on the Rockies or the Diamondbacks, which I would expect because implied run totals aren't that high. So I do think that I'll end up going to hitters here. It's not that it's a great matchup or anything, but David Dahl is only $4,000 on DraftKings. Tapia is 4,200. Story and Arenado are expensive, but outside of that, the Rockies are pretty cheap. And then on the other side, Arizona priced up a bit more. Not a great matchup against Gray, but it's also a bad Colorado bullpen behind them. So there's a lot of upside there. If you're going to get low ownership on stacks and cores, it's always pretty appealing. He at 8,800 is somewhat appealing, I guess, in tournaments. But again, I just think that roster construction wise, I don't really end up in that price range.
I think I'm more likely to get to some John Gray here, and then the Rockies against Greinke. Like you're getting David Dahl at 4K, Tapia if he's leading off at 4,200, and then Murphy at 4,200 as well. So some value bats here for Colorado, even against a good pitcher in Greinke. And then I don't really ever mind playing John Gray and Coors. The Diamondbacks are striking out 23% of the time. That's around average, a 90 WRC plus for their active roster right now. So I don't think this is a spot where Gray's upside is really limited. If he's got his best stuff, like he can pitch fine in Coors, and he could have a huge game. So he's kind of probably my favorite guy in this 8K range if we're taking Chirinos out of the picture because of the pitch count. And he's also getting under 20% ownership right now. So while I understand people targeting bats against Gray, it's Coors Field, and you're going to get low ownership on some of these Diamondbacks bats, but I think I'm more on the Gray side, more on the Rockies here. Yeah, I think that's about good. Anything else you want to mention? Any specific bats you're targeting against either of these two guys?
I agree with you with Gray too. I think that he's, I mentioned Greinke being a reasonable play. I think Gray is probably the best play in that price range. But again, I just kind of doubt that I get there. Dahl's the one that really stands out. He's also projected as the highest owned, not surprisingly. But yeah, he'd be like the one bat that I think stands out the most.
All right. We've got, two more games to talk about on this main slate. Cleveland and Boston. We have a 4.6 implied total for Cleveland, 6 flat for the Red Sox. Jeffrey Rodriguez going up against Rick Porcello. Red Sox highest implied total on the slate. Do you agree with that against Rodriguez here?
Yeah, I think it's a great spot for Boston. Rodriguez has decent stuff, but he doesn't throw a lot of strikes. He gets behind in counts. And that's just a really bad spot to be in, obviously, against the Red Sox. But, they're a team that can work counts. They're a team that forces you to throw strikes. He's only struck out 15.2% of hitters this season, has an xFIP of almost 5. Going into Fenway, just, obviously a really bad spot for Rodriguez.
Yeah. Red Sox, well, they're priced up a ton. I think you might see them come in a little bit undervalued because of Scherzer. Like, it's just really tough with any pitcher to fit in $5,600, 53 and 52 and 53 and 48, 7-hitter at 5,500. So they're priced up for good reason. I think if you do prioritize hitters, the Red Sox would be a good stack to get overweight on, because you're just not going to be able to fit as many Scherzer lineups with them. I mean, you're going to have to get really creative and go with like a Bailey or Nova. Or maybe that's not that creative because both those guys are chalk. But you're going to have to do something different with the Red Sox stack if you're trying to fit in one of these top arms. So I like to get to them for that reason. I'm probably going to have a ton of Red Sox here. Porcello is a guy that I hate, but $7,300 going up against Cleveland as a pretty big favorite. Is he a guy that piques your interest at all?
I think that the price tag there is fine. I'd still rather just save the money and get to the cheap guys like Nova and Bailey. I don't really buy into Porcello as a pitcher, but I do think that the price tag is too cheap when you're talking about someone that will give you innings at the very least. He has only struck out 15.6% of lefties this season. So that's obviously not great going against this Cleveland lineup, but Fenway also doesn't play up left-handed power like it does right-handed power. So I think Porcello has that working in his favor as well.
Yeah. Some of these Cleveland bats are actually pretty cheap. Kipnis 13 on Yahoo, Bowers 10, Ramirez 14. Has Ramirez started to turn it around? I haven't looked at him specifically, but he started off the season really, really poorly. It looks like his power has pretty much gone away. Only 3 home runs since in the last month. But is he a guy that you're worried about at all? I don't know. Have we talked about Ramirez before?
I don't think so. But yeah, he is someone that I'm worried about because it's not even just this season. Like you're getting to a sample, like a large sample size now of him just not being a good hitter going back to last year. So I think that it is concerning. I mean, it doesn't make sense. Like he's not old. He was a really, really good hitter for a long stretch. So it's always tough to know exactly like how to handle situations like that. But I do put more weight in him just not being what he used to be for whatever reason, because we are getting to such a large sample of at bats.
Yeah, he's a guy I'm worried about as well. He still projects okay, but he's starting to come down as even not a great value at this price, I'm noticing. So maybe some worry from Alex's perspective as well. Is Bowers at 3,200 one of the better values, you think?
Yeah, I think so. Especially assuming he's hitting, like around fourth in the order. He's got some pop. He has a decent matchup against Porcello, who, like I said, isn't striking lefties out. He's allowed a 222 expected ISO to them. Yeah, I think Bowers is a pretty good play.
Yeah, I like it a lot. All right, let's go to the last game on the main slate. We have the LA Angels going up against the Oakland Athletics. 4.1 implied total for the Angels, 5 for the A's. I saw some people talking about him earlier. Got tagged a couple times in chat about $6,100 Trevor Cahill. Adam, I need your expertise. What are you doing with Cahill? Or does he just fall into he's a 6K pitcher, so you play some of him?
At the very least, he falls into he's a 6K pitcher, so I'm playing some of him. But I do actually have some reason to be optimistic about him. It's a tough matchup here against Oakland. They've only struck out about 20% of the time against right-handed pitching this season. So it's not like we're getting him in a great spot. But I had talked a couple of times this year about the difference in release point on his fastball and his curveball this year compared to different year or to previous years. And there was just a pretty wide difference. And I thought that could be contributing to why he just wasn't getting swings and misses, and he's been getting hit really hard. Over the last couple of starts, you'd started to see the gap close as far as the difference between his release points. Last start, he finally was back to throwing his fastball and his curveball from the exact same release point. So it seems like it's something that he's aware of and that he's fixed. Last start, he faced Minnesota. He had an 11% swinging strike percentage and a 33% chase percentage. Both of those numbers are good, especially when you consider that he was facing Minnesota, which is a ridiculously tough matchup. So I think he's trending in the right direction. I think that he's probably a bit underpriced in general now if he has fixed what I think was his big issue. Um, so I do have interest. I do have interest just because I think he's better from this point forward than he has been so far this year.
Yeah, walks are always going to be an issue with him. So that's what makes him frustrating for DFS, and he goes stretches where he can't find the plate. But like, he's not even having like the spikes and strikeouts. Like he's got one game with 8 Ks. Looks like he started the season out okay, just from a quick game log search. But do you think he still has the big strikeout games in him?
Yeah, I think we start to see that more going forward. I think like my whole like theory on him this year has been that he wasn't getting swings and misses on his curveball because hitters were having an easy time distinguishing that from his fastball. Now that you have him throwing them from the same release point again, I think that you start to see more swings and misses. He also has been throwing his changeup more the last few starts. It's been pretty effective for him, but he's thrown it about 33% of the time compared to a 21% average this season. So I think that could be something that works for him as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna lose so much money on Cahill. Uh, God, he's crushed me every time I've played him. It seems like I've never gotten him right. I always get fooled by like the big swinging strike numbers, and those have kind of gone away. So I stopped playing him a little bit to start this season. But if you're telling me that there's a possibility they're coming back and we could get him at 6,100 in a spot where he's not going to be chalky at all, in a spot where you can pivot to him off of Homer Bailey and Ivan Nova, then I'm kind of in on Cahill here. So I think I'm going to be well overweight on him. The 5 implied total against is tough, and it's not a great strikeout matchup, but just as a pure pivot, a guy who has talent and maybe is starting to figure some things out, Cahill's going to be a guy that I'm well overweight on. Bassett at $9,400 going up against the Angels in O.co here. Is he a guy you're looking at all? I know we're not getting to this price point, but are you impressed with what you're seeing out of Bassett?
I'm impressed with what I'm seeing out of Bassett. I just have no interest here against the Angels. By far the lowest strikeout percentage in baseball. Just really, really limits upside for anyone. And then you talk about someone like Bassett, who, while I am impressed, you're paying for his recent production, for sure. And he doesn't have that long of a track record. So just basically impossible for me to get to him here.
Angels K rate up to 16.5% for the season. 127 WRC plus versus righties. Just very little upside for Bassett at $9,400. Even if things go perfectly here, you're looking at probably a handful of strikeouts. It's just not going to do it for $9,400, I don't think. Ohtani's price still broken at $3,500. Got to be another one of the better values on the slate if he's batting in the top 3, right?
Yeah, no question. I mean, I know his numbers this year in a very limited sample aren't great. He has a 295 WOBA and a 150 ISO against righties, but he also has a 407 expected WOBA and a 222 expected ISO, and that's in 40 at bats. So I definitely lean towards looking at the expected stats more than what's actually happened. And importantly, you go back to last year, and you're talking about a guy with like a 300 ISO against righties for $3,500 on DraftKings. I think that's like probably the best hitter on the slate.
Yep. Yeah, I'm going to play a ton of Ohtani. Like, he just, why his price is just going down. Like, it's just plummeting. And even Trout is probably underpriced at 5,300. Like, he should just always be 6K. But yeah, are you getting to the Angels as stacks? Or are you getting to either of these teams? Like, we like Cahill, but he's a guy that does struggle with walks. He's a guy that can blow up. Are you looking at Oakland bats at all for cheap?
No, not a ton. I mean, I guess at their price tags, it's reasonable, especially because, like you said, Cahill will walk guys, and normally when you're against a pitcher like Cahill, I would rather full stack than have one-offs. The price tags are appealing. It would let you get Scherzer plus like a mid-range pitcher if you wanted to go that route. The park obviously isn't great. It's supposed to be like 60 degrees today, so you're kind of losing. That's not favorable for your hitters, but maybe get to some Oakland just because of their prices.
Yeah. Is Cahill still, do you know if Cahill's still struggling to hold runners? I know he's been really bad historically, but I'm not seeing a ton of steals in this Oakland lineup anyways.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I know, he is. I'm pulling up his season long numbers now, but Yeah, not a ton of speed on Oakland. He's
Just
always
Semien
been,
and Piscotty, they both have
yeah.
a handful this season.
He's allowed 9 stolen bases already this
Oh
year.
my God. So pretty bad. So,
Yeah.
okay. I don't know what I'm going to do yet with Oakland, but they're a little bit interesting to me, especially if Cahill starts to gain some steam as we get closer to lock, as ownership projections start to update. If you guys want to use the promo code MLB Strategy, you can get 50% off your first month of Osmo.com Premium. That includes ownership projections, articles from Adam and Laffy. You obviously all get the free stuff, premium Slack, rankings, projections from Osmo himself. So all the good stuff. Laffy's on the deeper dive or the deep dive today, right?
Yeah.
All right, so that will be out, I'm sure, shortly for the main slate for any premium subscribers. Have you looked at this night slate, Adam?
I have it in front of me now. Yeah, Sonny Gray slate.
Oh boy, I didn't even notice. Yes, I forgot. We're talking to the Sunny Gray Whisperer here. Do you want to just talk about the slate generally, and then we can wrap it up?
Yeah. So I'm not sure it counts as being a Sonny Gray whisperer when I just stay to play him every single day. But
Well, you were a
my
Whisperer
Sonny,
last week.
yeah, yeah. I'll be going right back to Sonny Gray. Pittsburgh doesn't strike out a ton, but I just really believe in Gray's skill set. I believe that he's been pretty unlucky this year. A lot of the advanced metrics I look at have him as a pretty good pitcher. Not surprisingly, strikeouts are up. Against lefties, he has a 30+% strikeout percentage this year. He's facing a bunch of them, so I'll be going right back to Sonny Gray on this slate. You have DeGrom versus Kershaw. It's a really good spot for Kershaw, dangerous spot for DeGrom, but both of them are reasonably priced. So I think that that's kind of where the pitching stands out here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Any teams you want to throw out as teams that you're going to be stacking heavily?
Milwaukee against Pineda, just so much left-handed power there for a guy who has always struggled with home runs, but now doesn't miss bats either. I think that it's just a really good spot for Milwaukee.
Yeah, one thing to keep an eye on for this night slate, if you guys are playing this, there is going to be a question as to whether or not this Minnesota game is going to play. It's going to rain basically all day. It's raining now. I don't. It's not going to stop for quite a while. So who knows if this game is even going to play? I'm assuming this is the first game of a 3 or 4 game set. So it's not like they don't have time to make it up. But just keep an eye out for the weather in Minnesota. Who's your favorite cheap option between Pineda, Gio, Lance Lynn? I guess Lance Lynn's not cheap, so we won't include him. Tommy Malone and Mitch Keller. Do you have a favorite out of those 4 off the bat?
I guess Tommy Malone, just because he's left-handed pitching in Seattle against Texas. So it's a park downgrade for the Rangers, who do have left-handed bats here. You just faced them and had a decent start. You don't really get any confidence there, but when you compare it to Gio against the Twins, just a really tough spot. You get Mitch Keller making his, I think, major league debut. He's one of the top prospects for the Pirates, but pitching in Great American, not the best spot either. I would say Keller's the most talented out of the group, probably. But I think Malone's in the most favorable park and matchup.
Yeah, Malone's coming off a pretty nice start. I can't remember who it was against, but it was someone it was maybe
Texas.
in Texas. Yeah, it was against Texas. Yeah, went 89 pitches, 6 Ks, 16.85 DK points. Probably going to be a pretty chalky option on the slate as a favorite in a decent park. So yeah, you might get some Tommy Malone chalk, but yeah, that's pretty good for the night slate. I'm sure we'll have people in Slack. I'll probably be around in Slack for most of the day, and I'm guessing Laffy will touch on some of those games later in the day.
We'll have the deeper dive later too with Laffy, me, and I think Alex.
Oh, you guys are?
Yeah,
Oh, I didn't know that. All right, very cool. Very cool. All right, so that's gonna be at what 5 Eastern,
5:15.
5:15.
5:15. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that will serve as the live before lock show, right? Basically, I don't know. I don't know if we're doing a live before lock. Anyways, we will have content in some form. So those guys will be on at 5:15 Eastern. Get analysis more from Adam, Laffy, Osimo, Alex Baker. You will not be shorted on this Memorial Day slate. So thanks for joining us, guys. Promo code MLB Strategy does get you 50% off of your first month of Awesemo.com Premium. Go support Yahoo. They're doing these rake-free tournaments. So those should be the first tournaments you enter every single day. And they have just lower management fees in general, 12% compared to industry standard, which is now around 16% for these large field contests. So Yahoo, a great place to play. You don't have to compete with pros, obviously less rake. You can't do the CSV edit, so you got to build your lineups with some love and care. And anything more before we head out, Adam?
No, I think that's it.
All right, thanks, guys. Please give us a like on your way out. It does really help us out. Good luck today.